Hello servers, and hi, thank you for tuning in, and it's great to have you with us. I don't think I'm too far off when I say that the insect season is in full swing. And since we haven't tested and compared insect removers for a while, now is the perfect time to take a look at a new product, namely the Dodo Juice Flies Undone. I believe we have never included it in a test as an insect remover before. I think we have only had it in stress tests for sealants so far. From that perspective, I am very curious to see how it will perform in terms of cleaning effectiveness. To be honest, I have to admit that I am exaggerating a bit. I'm not that excited anymore because, as you can see, I've already used it quite a bit since I've been using it for a while now. And I can already say one thing in advance: it will not disappoint, at least in terms of performance. Because one thing must be made very clear from the start: this is a relatively expensive insect remover. This bottle here with 500 ml costs a whopping $15. For the same price, you can already get a liter from other manufacturers. In some cases, you pay even less for a liter from other manufacturers. So it really has to impress with its cleaning performance. And even if it does, the final conclusion will still be very, very difficult. Also important are the warning symbols. There are the exclamation mark and the corrosive symbol. This is nothing unusual for insect removers. And when you look at the safety data sheet, you can see that the pH level of the product is between 12.5 and 12.8, and that is already very, very strongly alkaline. So one shouldn't be surprised why this symbol is on it. This likely also means that the safety for sealants could become problematic with the Dodo Juice Flies Undone. But now we know the most important thing there is to know about the product. I would say, let's go to the self-service box together and take a look at its performance. So, this is the area we will be looking at now. The insects have been on it for a few days. The car has also been outside partially in the sun. These are not insects that can just be easily wiped off, I would say. And when testing a product like the Dodo Juice Flies Undone, we obviously always need a reference product that we know works well. And now I will use the good old Dr. Wack CW insect remover. And then I would say, let's get started with this test here. We'll start on the left side, where I will spray the Dr. Wack. Very good, it worked well. And then on the right side, the Dodo Juice spray head, it works. So, we will let the whole thing take effect now according to the manufacturer's instructions. With Dodo Juice, it's 2 to 5 minutes, and with Dr. Wack, I believe it's similar. Yes, exactly, 3 to 5 minutes. From that perspective, we'll see each other again shortly. Two minutes have just passed and we can already see a difference. The Dr. Wack is still fully spread out here, it hasn't dried yet. With the Dodo Juice, it is now starting to dry slowly. So I wouldn't actually wait much longer than these 2 minutes. But we will wait for about 30 more seconds so that both have had 3 minutes and so that we can prepare for the Doctor. Also, stay within the time frame specified by the manufacturer, and then we rinse everything off. So that worked well. Let's take a look at the result together. I just had a little bit left here. Otherwise, the Dr. Wack, as we know it, has been cleaned very, very reliably. It looks good, but also the Dodo Juice, I don't see a single insect residue anymore. From that perspective, I would say that after this cleaning, it's a tie. We have another area here on the side so that we can conduct an additional test. Just to make sure that the result from before remains the same here as well, we are now also turning left and right. I will now spray the Dr. Wack on the inside here. I will spray the Dodo Juice. As you can see, there is a very stubborn one. I will spray it on the side. So, to ensure that it is well wetted, we will wait another 3 minutes and then rinse it off. So, and I believe the same result on this side. Clean. I don't see any residues there now. Not here either. The cleaning performance is good for both. However, the cleaning performance of insect removers is only one side of the coin. It is also important to consider whether they are safe for sealants. I currently have the NeoWax applied on the car. Therefore, we will now take a look to see if these two insect removers have any effect on the sealant. I will first show you that the NeoWax is fully present here, and then we will spray the two insects with the remover and just see what happens. So, you have seen it. I think it can definitely be said that the NeoWax is fully present. Therefore, we will now spray the Dodo juice on this side, and right next to it on the other side, we will apply the Dr. Wax. We will leave it on for another 3 minutes, and then check if anything has happened to the sealant. I believe you have already seen one thing. Dr. Wax is more gel-like and thicker, which means it doesn't mist as finely when spraying. And from my perspective, we also need more spray bursts to properly wet the surface. The advantage is that it covers the surface very well and does not dry as quickly. Dodo juice is much more fluid. You have seen that it mists very finely, but you have also seen it at the front before. And here I think we will see the same thing, that it has an inherently higher risk of drying faster. From that perspective, I would say we will see each other again in 2.5 minutes. So, we are almost at the 3-minute mark, but this is exactly what I wanted to show you. Look here on the side. And we can clearly see that Dodo juice is already partially dried in some areas, while Dr. Wax is still evenly applied. And you really have to be careful, especially at slightly higher temperatures. Let's rinse it off. Very interesting. I just rinsed very thoroughly and deliberately for a long time because when you conduct such tests, you have to rinse very thoroughly to ensure that there are no residues of surfactants left on the surface. But we have seen absolutely clearly and unequivocally that both only attack the NeoWax. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend either insect remover if you have a sealed car. This would simply mean that if you want to use both regularly, you will have to reapply the sealants more often. In the middle, we clearly saw that the NeoWax is still fully present. However, we have also clearly seen that Dr. Wax has less severely affected the sealant, NeoWax number 2. We have a significantly stronger formation of puddles here. There is still a puddle on top, and from this, it also shows what we have already seen based on the pH values, that Dodo juice is clearly an insect remover designed for cleaning performance. A few seconds later, we are back from the self-service box. It's a bit quieter here, and I can explain something to you that is personally important to me, and I believe it's something that many people forget. And this often comes from the fact that we want everything in car care. We want the strongest sealants that are incredibly durable and yet easy to apply and still inexpensive. And even with the insect removers, we want them to dissolve and remove insects and insect residues while still being safe for sealants. To a certain extent, there are limits to chemistry, and therefore my personal opinion is quite clear. If I have a sealed car, especially when I already know that this sealant is not the strongest, I first use the pre-cleaner that I already know is safe for my sealant when I have insect residues on the car, and I simply check if that is sufficient to remove the insect residues. Then I wash the car first, because I assume that the pre-cleaner I used has already loosened the insects, and then I wash over it, and in the best case, they are already gone, which means I have the minimal possible strain on my sealant. And when I see that there are still insect residues left, I would personally consider using a strong insect remover. If I reach for a strong insect remover right from the start, I know that I will probably have to reapply the sealant after the treatment. If it's a wet sealant, it's not so bad because I can reapply it during the wash. Even if it's a quick detailer, maybe even a spray sealant, it's not that bad. I can easily and quickly apply it again after every wash. If it is a paste wax, if it is a polymer sealant, if it is a ceramic sealant, then the whole thing is just not that simple. But one must keep things in perspective. Insect removers are indeed relatively strong chemicals. They are usually relatively strongly alkaline when they are capable of cleaning effectively. And we actually see this almost across the board. The insect removers that are really effective at dissolving insect residues are almost all strongly alkaline. From that perspective, one must have a bit of realistic expectations. Now, the diligence of Undone has a little extra party trick, as I like to call it. Dodo Juice explicitly states that they formulated it not only to clean, but also to include lubricants, allowing it to be used with a cloth or a wash mitt to remove really stubborn things. What is a bit tricky now is the following. I took a wash mitt that has only a little bit of shampoo residue in it to test it out, and yes, it definitely glides. What I don't know now is whether this applies to other insect removers as well, and these manufacturers simply do not mention it. On the other hand, one would have to say, well, then these manufacturers have only themselves to blame. If Dodo Juice was simply clever enough to highlight this extra, then that's cool. Personally, I see a significant application here, and that is bee droppings. These are those small yellow spots that sometimes remain on the paint, which are also very stubborn. And partly it is really true, not even a pre-cleaner, not even regular car shampoo can really remove it. And then just having the diligence to check if I have a bee stain here, I spray it briefly, let it sit for a moment, and then wash over it again to remove it. I can imagine that this works relatively well. Conclusion on Dodo Juice Flies Undone, the insect remover. I believe the Achilles heel of this product will be the price. It will be too high for most of you, and we also need to keep things in perspective. Realistically, we have enough alternatives in the German-speaking area that work just as well, if not better, and may even be a bit gentler, at least in terms of pH value, possibly even having fewer warning symbols on the back and still costing less. That is simply the reality. Here in England, the situation is different. It costs less from the start, so if we were in England, it would be a different matter. But that's just the world we live in. Since Brexit, products from England have all become extremely expensive. And even if I could try to make it sound nice now, if I could say that purely in terms of cleaning performance, this is already one of the best I have ever tried. And this party trick that he still has, that I can also use it together with a wash mitt, because there are additional lubricants or greases in it, then I would justify it to myself. In itself and pure, when we consider the performance, the product does nothing wrong here. It is an extremely strong insect remover. I personally like it as well. I especially showed you that it is very well suited for removing something like this bee residue from the car during washing. But at the end of the day, the high price remains. And we have also seen that it is not an insect remover that is safe for sealants. In the end, I have to leave the decision up to you whether you want to put in the effort to get it, whether the few advantages it has, such as its high cleaning performance and the fact that it is also lubricated, allowing me to use it with a wash mitt, are enough for you to want to get it and try it out, or if I can completely understand if you say no, that's nonsense. There are many, much cheaper products that work just as well, and I believe we should leave it at that. If the video was helpful, informative, exciting, and interesting for you, feel free to give us a thumbs up. Feel free to support the channel with a free subscription and tune in for the next video.